Every year, more than 150,000 travelers worldwide experience serious emergencies during summer vacations. Some face accidents, others vanish without a trace, and a few never return home. What if your dream getaway suddenly became your worst nightmare? They thought they were escaping stress. A quiet summer cabin by the lake, surrounded by forest, away from the noise of the city. But what they found was a place that refused to sleep. It was July, the height of summer. A group of 4 friends rented a rustic lakeside cabin in northern Michigan, drawn in by the promise of kayaking, late-night bonfires, and stargazing far away from crowds. The cabin looked perfect. Wooden porch, large windows, and the lake stretching endlessly under the golden sun. Locals at the gas station had smiled politely when they mentioned where they were headed, though one old man muttered, "That place hasn't been quiet in years." They laughed it off. The first night was calm until around 2 a.m., when the sound of footsteps echoed on the wooden porch. Everyone froze. They peeked out, expecting maybe a lost hiker. But no one was there. Just empty rocking chairs swaying slightly, though the night air was still. The next day they tried to forget it, swimming, grilling, exploring the woods. But that night the noises came again. This time scratching at the walls, soft taps on the window glass, and what sounded like faint whispers carried through the cabin. The group began to argue. Some swore it was animals, others felt watched. By the third night, no one could sleep. Around midnight, one friend, Lisa, heard her name called softly from outside. She woke the others, trembling, insisting it was her mother's voice. They searched with flashlights, but the beam barely pierced the thick woods. When they turned back, they saw wet footprints on the porch, leading into the cabin, even though none of them had been near the water. That night, they locked every door and window. Still, at exactly 3:15 a.m., the cabin lights flickered on by themselves. The rocking chairs banged against the porch rail, as if pushed by invisible hands. The whispers grew louder, filling every room. One of the guys swore he saw a pale figure standing at the edge of the dock, staring back at them. But when he blinked, it was gone. On the 4th night, exhausted and terrified, they decided to leave. Bags were packed, car loaded. But when they tried to start the engine, it wouldn't turn over. And that's when they heard it, a deafening slam from inside the cabin, as if all the doors had shut at once. Against every instinct, they went back inside to grab their keys and belongings. The cabin was silent at first. Then, all at once, the walls seemed to vibrate with pounding footsteps. The front door slammed shut behind them. And from the loft above, they heard laughter. Not joyful laughter, but mocking, hollow, and endless. They finally escaped at dawn, when the car suddenly roared to life as if nothing had been wrong. They never returned, and the cabin still stands, rented out each summer to unsuspecting travelers. Locals say the lake is cursed. Some believe it's the spirits of those who drowned there, forever restless. Others whisper that the cabin itself just doesn't want anyone to sleep. National parks are supposed to be places of peace, wide open skies, fresh air, untouched nature. But every year, hundreds of hikers vanish without a trace. Some are never found. This is one of those stories. It was the summer of 2016 when a young couple, Daniel and Marissa, planned their dream getaway, a road trip across the U.S. Their favorite stop was a sprawling national park in Colorado, famous for its scenic trails. They checked into a small lodge nearby and set out on what was supposed to be a simple half-day hike. Clear skies, birds overhead, and the smell of pine everywhere. Nothing seemed out of place. They even joked about how this is straight out of a travel commercial. A few hours into the hike, things started to feel wrong. The trail markers seemed confusing, and the deeper they went, the quieter the forest became. No birds, no wind, just silence. Then, Daniel noticed they hadn't seen another hiker in nearly an hour, even though the trail was supposed to be popular. They decided to turn back, but when they retraced their steps, the path didn't look familiar anymore. The map on their phone lost signal. That's when Marissa swore she saw movement, a person, just up ahead. They rushed toward it, calling out, but when they got closer, there was nothing but trees. As the sun dipped lower, panic set in. They stumbled across what looked like an old fire ring, not part of any official campsite, with bones scattered nearby. Some animal, maybe, but the bones looked too large. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. When they spun around, no one was there. Exhausted, they pressed on, hoping to find the main trail. Instead, they found something chilling, a backpack leaning against a tree. Inside were clothes, a wallet, and an ID belonging to someone reported missing from the same park 2 summers earlier. Night came fast. They had only one flashlight, and its beam felt swallowed by the endless forest. Then came the voices, faint, distant, as though multiple people were whispering their names. Daniel shouted into the dark, but the voices only grew louder, surrounding them. At some point in the night, Daniel vanished. One moment, he was right behind Marissa, holding the flashlight. The next, silence. She screamed, spinning in circles, calling his name. But the light was gone. The forest felt alive, pressing in on her from every direction. Hours later, rangers found Marissa at dawn, wandering in shock near a riverbank, her shoes torn, her face pale. When they asked about Daniel, she only repeated one thing over and over. The forest took him. A massive search was launched. Helicopters, dogs, hundreds of volunteers. But Daniel was never found. His case remains one of dozens of unexplained disappearances in the park. To this day, hikers still whisper about the trail where he vanished, warning newcomers never to go too deep. Because once the forest notices you, it doesn't let go. Hotels are supposed to be safe. Clean sheets, warm lights, a place to rest. But some rooms carry secrets. And when travelers check in, not everyone makes it to checkout. In August 2019, a family of 3, parents Mark and Elena and their 10-year-old son, were driving through New Mexico on a summer road trip. Tired after hours on the highway, they pulled into an old roadside hotel. It wasn't fancy, but it looked decent enough for the night. The clerk hesitated when assigning them a room, pausing just slightly before saying, "Room 6 is available." Exhausted, they didn't think twice. From the moment they entered room 6, something felt wrong. The air was heavy, damp, even though the AC was humming. The wallpaper peeled in spots, and there was a faint smell of mildew mixed with something metallic. Their son refused to sleep in the bed by the window, saying he felt like someone was watching from outside. They laughed it off, but that night strange noises started. The sound of dripping water, though the bathroom sink was dry. Then scratching, faint but constant, inside the walls. Around midnight, Ellen awoke to see a shadow in the corner of the room. She blinked, thinking it was just her eyes adjusting. But the shadow didn't move with the lamp. It just stood there, watching. Mark tried to brush it off, telling her she was overtired. But as they lay back down, the TV flickered on by itself, static filling the room. Their son screamed, pointing to the mirror above the dresser. For a split second, they all saw it, a woman's reflection standing behind them, pale, gaunt, with eyes black as coal. When they spun around, no one was there. They decided to leave, but when Mark grabbed the door handle, it wouldn't budge. The knob turned freely, but the door stayed locked, as if welded shut. Panic set in. The lights flickered, the shadows on the wall seemed to stretch unnaturally long, and the scratching inside the walls grew louder, like dozens of fingernails clawing to get out. At 3 a.m., the bathroom door slammed shut on its own. Their son cried, begging to leave. Mark kicked the door open, but inside, the mirror above the sink was shattered, glass scattered everywhere, though they hadn't heard it break. Written across the cracked surface, in something dark and smeared, were the words, "Don't stay." Suddenly, the window by the bed burst open, though the night outside was perfectly still. Curtains whipped violently, and the temperature in the room dropped so fast they could see their breath. Elna grabbed their son, screaming for Mark to get the door open. That's when every light in the room went black. In total darkness, they heard whispering, dozens of voices overlapping, too many to understand. Then, clear as day, one voice hissed, "Get out!" The door finally swung open on its own. They didn't hesitate. They ran barefoot into the parking lot, leaving their bags and everything behind. The next morning, when Mark returned with a hotel staff member to retrieve their things, room 6 looked different. Perfectly clean. No broken mirror, no shattered glass, no scratches. As if nothing had happened. Later, they learned room 6 had a dark history. Years earlier, a woman had been murdered there by her partner, and guests ever since had reported disturbing experiences. Today, the hotel never rents it out. But some travelers whisper that if you arrive late enough, tired enough, and unlucky enough, the clerk might still hand you the key. From cabins in the woods, to endless hiking trails, to hotel rooms that hold secrets, these stories remind us that danger doesn't take a vacation. Sometimes the scariest places are the ones we think will bring us peace. Have you ever had a vacation horror story of your own? Share it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos for more chilling true tales.